Hello, this is Professor Angelia with Works of Heart's Feelings at Work class, Part 1. And this class was taught in lots of places from 2016 on. And so we're going to hop right in there. Feelings at work. And this was an answer to, we had women and workplace emotions, and someone said, why can't it be for everyone? So this kind of answer to that, feelings at work for everybody. So let's hop in here. Our emotional symptoms are precious sources of life and individuality. And that's a quote by Sir Thomas More. We all fantasize about how we think things should be. But we can rarely quit our day jobs to make our world what we truly want it to be. We need to have money in this day and age to live. Most of us don't make enough to be able to live the lifestyle that we wish for. We may be nervous that at any moment the bottom will drop out and we won't be prepared. Businesses close. Businesses merge. And how would that affect us? A lot of our work life involves anxiety. We may be afraid that the next time we go to visit our parents, we may be moving in. We want to do things with our kids, not be uncomfortable around them. Unavoidable problems like heating, cooling, plumbing, and roofing can come out of nowhere and break us financially. Our boss may not care about our personal problems. If we are having problems at home, our boss may get a little more feedback from us than usual. We can unfortunately put ourselves in a bad situation at these points in time. Sometimes our attitudes can make our bosses ask us why we are there and try to get us to explain why they should keep us there. Sometimes we get downsized or reassigned. That can blow our minds. Sometimes, out of nowhere, we can get fired. Most of us need those regular paychecks and benefits that employment offers. Got a little itch happening here. The impersonalness of being let go can be infuriating or hurt us to the core. Breakups of any kind can be messy, and a break in employment is no different. We have to sort through our emotions, and we will examine each word that was said for meaning. And we can feel emotionally drained. The second big emotion in the workplace is anger. Wondering how someone could do this or that to us can blow our minds. Crying is not always an option. We might not want people to know that they hurt us that much. But when we can be alone, the tears will usually fall. Usually, it feels better just to let the tears fall. Work can make you cry. We are never quite sure what to do when the bottom drops out from underneath us. We may have no savings to keep us afloat for a while. Real life could put us between a rock and a hard place. You knew that was coming, didn't you? The next big workplace emotion is fear. Just thinking about a workplace situation that caused us fear can make us sweat. It can happen in the average office. It doesn't matter how many people that you work with. Professionals often expect everyone to conform to what they believe the norm should be, while some people like more comfortable, casual wear. The person in charge expects to set the norm. Older workers can feel threatened by younger workers who are faster and have a wider knowledge base than they do. Have you been through things like this? Most of us who didn't start out as entrepreneurs have experienced such things. Losing a job, then trying to find another, can be nerve-wracking. I worked at a place where it was human resources job. Oh, I'm skipping stuff. Excuse me. Sometimes our boss doesn't even tell us face to face that they are letting us go. I worked at a place, caught myself back up, where it was human resources job to do that. Some bosses, however, do and seemingly take pleasure in yelling or using foul language with us. Losing a job can be a serious blow to all areas of our lives. Sometimes, bosses treat us like we aren't even people, just a cog in the machine. Excuse me here, I've got something bugging me. That they've deemed needs to be replaced or done away with. None of us are immune to being hurt in some way on the job. Older people can retire. New people come in. Change is inevitable. Sometimes we are living paycheck to paycheck, and any layoff can be catastrophic. If you've hated your job for some time, you may even be relieved that you don't have to report there anymore. You may be happy to have a chance to look for a happier work experience. Progress can downsize any of us. If your job is all you have, it can be very damaging. Some people even choose to end their lives. But then, they probably had some mental problems to begin with, and if they chose that option. You never know how someone will react to being let go. We all have emotions. No matter what your gender or culture, we all have that in common. We all have ways of showing our emotions. Our brain responds in the ways that it has devised to deal with such stimulus. Emotions came about as a release of tension, a fight or flight response. We bond how we learned to or not. Emotions help us to navigate our environment. Emotional intelligence can help us survive, succeed, and react in ways that can help us to achieve our goals. Just as not having it can be to your detriment. Without stepping on someone else to get there. Because that's what civilized people do. Different situations dictate a need for different ways of showing emotions. Reading emotions can help you succeed, as much as it served our ancestors to survive. There has to be a balance between reason and emotion in the workplace. We all have good and bad impulses. It's how we act on them that's important. Our brains can feel two conflicted, intense situations and give us a physical headache. If we let our emotions run wild, we will wreck ourselves. We often look at it as so and so did this to us, instead of the fact that we chose to react in a certain way. By using reason, we can overcome. Reason can shape your world. Factories are big and can be impersonal. Strict rules may be in place. And in the assembly line, machine precision environment, the individual, gotta turn the page here, is not really considered. My goodness. Big companies don't get up close and personal with their employees. It's just not possible. Your immediate supervisor is the only management you may have access to. Emotions can disrupt the orderly flow of things. But if we don't express our emotions, we can end up with a nervous breakdown, ulcers, and even high blood pressure. Emotion is essential in all aspects of our lives. Emotions are as essential as cognitive brain function. Without emotions, it would be impossible to make everyday decisions. Without proper emotions, you couldn't plan for the future, conduct yourself according to social rules, and decide what course of action was best for you. You feel, therefore you are. Emotions are a hardwired biological component of our physiology. Emotions are essential to our survival. It's as important as metabolism and reflexes. When we get angry, our blood pressure rises in response. At the first sign of danger or distress, the amygdala, that's in your brain, triggers the release of stress hormones, which in turn raises our blood pressure, sending more blood to our muscles, preparing us for fight or flight. The stress hormones also make the memory of the event more easy to access in our brains. And that's why we remember negative things more than we do positive things. And that's a shame, but that's the science of it. That's why bad memories seem to be stronger than good ones. This can be unfortunate for the person remembering. When the boss yells, it can remind you of a domineering parent or teacher. And you may actually feel yourself cowering. You may feel the urge to spank a child who just started to run out in traffic, when an explanation may be the better choice for an older child. A scary movie, especially a violent one, may trigger too much fear. All of these things and more can trigger the amygdala into action. Each experience causes the same response from the amygdala. It registers fear as the emotion felt. Each type of fear is different. My goodness. Look like a bear over here. And requires a different response. Averting real danger can bring on tears. Our ancestors probably experienced the same sensation when escaping a predator. Once your hormones level off again, you are usually left tired but calm. A skillful filmmaker can elicit an actual physical response to an imaginary scenario by using images and music. In the moment, the fear your brain feels is very real. Only with our fear at the workplace do we have no appropriate outlet to resolve these feelings. Unresolved conflict at work can leave us with a lingering state of anxiety. This can lead us to always feeling like we are in distress. Our ancestors on the savannah had it harder, yet easier, in the way that their anxiety dissipated when the event was over. The ways we may feel at risk at work can be complicated and are mostly mental and emotional in nature. Usually, we are not in any actual physical danger. Now, notice I said usually. This is a problem for modern people's emotional systems. We are still Homo sapiens. And our bodies respond almost the same as they did 20,000 years ago. The problem now is that psychological threats are processed the same as physical threats. Deep in our brains, we are all very ancient. Fighting your boss or a coworker for dominance is wildly inappropriate. We feel a disconnect that we can't do what our body is telling us to do. Our brain doesn't tell our body how to react. It just does. Excuse me here, someone's being rude and ringing my phone. Sorry about that. All right. And this brain telling our body we're ready to fight or flee doesn't make sense in the modern world, and it makes modern life harder. Our responses to watching a horror movie and finding out a coworker is behind underhanded gossip are about the same. Our bodies tell us to react. But our minds tell us that running or fighting will not solve the problem. Fighting and fleeing ensured our survival once upon a time, but no longer. Doing these things at work can be inappropriate, shocking, and grounds for dismissal. Imagine a sales clerk punching a nasty customer, or just running away from them. But our bodies tell us that's the way to go. Our ancient versus modern world struggle causes the current anxiety in the workplace. There have been books written on how to profit from primitive thinking. There are even people who give talks about this subject. It's like a caveman crushes his enemies, survives, has more children, and his line prospers. Kind of like Game of Thrones. Now, a man puts on a suit, goes into the boardroom, and still feels like crushing his enemies, but can't literally. It's complicated. We value expressing our feelings. Bottling up our emotions is bad for us. But, in the case of fight or flight, letting them out can only make things worse. We are receiving mixed messages. How are we supposed to behave when we are angry or upset at work? Keeping our emotions in check is integral to our success. Everyone is different and has different temperaments. We may even be biologically wired to be more responsive in an angry way. Some of us are sensitive. Others seem to never get their feathers ruffled. What is socially acceptable when everyone is different? The contradiction between biology and social norms can be a challenge. We are still evolving slowly. Our bodies have yet to catch up to modern predator-free lives. Because we don't have for real predators after us usually anymore. We have each other as predators after each other. We only figuratively eat each other for breakfast. Today we know that women's and men's brains are different. And therefore, the ways that we react are different. Women have larger parts of the brain having to do with communication. Women have better memories. Women can also remember more details and explain how others make them feel. Women's brains are much more affected by hormones. And to her, they are a very real part of her life. It's like comparing a superhighway in a woman's brain to a one-lane road in a man's. And, the reason for that is women have 3 times the connections in our corpus callosum than men do. Women are like an automatic shift, and men are more like, a stick shift. We communicate with both sides more readily, and men are modal. They have to shift gears. Women are hardwired to cry more often. It's how we're built. Both sexes release the fight or flight hormones. But women produce more oxytocin, which makes us more able to fix and mend problems. Our brains want social bonding. The more social a woman is, the more her EQ is. That's your emotional quotient, your emotional intelligence. Men, on the other hand, have larger centers for action and aggression. Men produce 10 times more testosterone than a woman does. So, men are much more likely to confront people that they view as jerks. He gets a positive adrenaline boost from doing so. And, let's turn my page here. Because that releases more testosterone, the loop can continue and give men the thrill seeker mentality. In women, a confrontation ends up creating feelings of stress, upset, and fear. Women often regret expressing their anger. Men tend to zero in on what makes them angry, while women do the opposite and try to ignore it. In animal tests, rats and monkeys showed that in males, stress was damaging to the brain, but much less so, if at all, in females. A woman's field of vision actually increases during a threat, proposing that evolution allows her to find more escape routes to save herself and her offspring. Women who are upset notice everything. Women are also very different in how we manage our emotions after the conflict is over. There is no difference in the speed in which we react. But there is a significant difference in how we regulate our reactions to aversive stimuli. Women's brains are busy thinking during the situation, whereas men's seem to go into a more reactive state. Women may have to use more of their brains to regulate emotions. Women try to regulate their reactivity, and afterwards lessen the severity of the conflict. Men seem to have an easier time bouncing back from difficult emotional situations. Men can let things slide much easier. Women are just wired to think more. If you understand that it takes women more effort and thought to recover, then you can give yourself a break by not beating yourself up over ruminating on negative experiences if you're a woman. You can build up your emotional resiliency by fully processing your feelings. Gender differences have led to stereotyping. Males are just wired to be more aggressive. Males are more willing to get down and dirty. Males even justify combative behavior as being manly. Boys learn problem solving earlier. Girls are more likely to be treated like princesses. Girls are not taught about work or getting angry. Girls are encouraged to be nice. And what we are taught, we internalize. We grow in a constant interplay of nature and nurture. How we are raised shows up in how we react to our environment. It's like boys and girls grow up in different cultures. The ideal raising will be completely guided by the child with no sexual stereotyping or judgment calls. The child will be encouraged to develop their own natural talents and interests, no matter what they may be. And that was our bell. So that's all for part one. I hope you found this educational and informational. And that's all for now. Until next time.